everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on volume 26 of Ace of the Diamond Act 2, chapters 229 to 236. We're in the semifinals, baby! And the first two innings have been pretty crazy. Last volume was nuts. I was like, oh my gosh. It was just, Terajima's like, we're in the big leagues now. We're not even two nationals if we make it there. We're not even there. No, we are to semifinals. I'm so excited. We're in the third inning, and so far Amahisa and Sawamura, they are not budging an inch. They are both on fire. I'm so excited. And they're kind of on equal playing fields, to be honest. I thought about that earlier today. I was like, it's really such a good match because they really are on equal footing with both teams. You have Sawamura and Amahisa, neither of which are like perfect pitchers, like the infallible May, Narumiya. Neither of them are them. They've had their good and bad moments, but they're both on fire, so they're both doing really well. And then they both teams have pitchers in the wings that can do well. You have Furuya, and then I know that they have the pitcher for Ichidai Third. I can't think of his name right now, but I know that he's pretty good. And then you have Takami and Miyuki. You have like a team that's pretty stacked on both sides. They're actually, and coaches with similar coaching styles and personalities. I mean, they're both, I think that, Takara, is it Tahara? I think it's Tahara. We were talking about this in the Discord because I always forget the name of Ichidai Third's coach. And Kelsey in the Discord was like, you never remember his name. And I was like, I don't. His name's like slips my mind, but it's Toshi. Toshi-chan is what Amahisa calls him, but it's, I think, Tahara. But yeah, he is a little bit more of a teddy bear than Kacheoka, but they both have similar styles and similar viewpoints on their teammates. So yeah, so it's really two teams that are on equal playing fields. They're both two powerhouse schools. They have a lot of similarities. The game can go either way. So I do think Seidou's going to win, but it's like, how are we going to do this? When are we going to do this? I want to see this animated. So I do believe that when the fourth season gets animated, I am totally going to watch it. But it's going to have to be in 3-episode chunks, so it'll be like every 3 weeks or so, kind of like what I wanted to do with Bleach. Just watch like every 3 or 4 episodes, because this is a series you have to watch in those episode chunks. Otherwise, the cliffhangers will just be nightmarish. So with that being said, I am really excited to get in this volume. We're in the middle of semifinals. I have a feeling this game is not wrapping up this volume. Do not think so. No. If we spend a whole volume on 2 innings, we're going to be in this for the long haul, and that's fine. So we shall see. But I'm really excited. I hope y'all are too. I actually just read volume 25 a couple days ago, but I couldn't wait. Volume 25 has come out on Patreon, and volume 24 is out on YouTube. So I haven't looked at the comments for those yet. But I'll definitely check them out before I get to volume 27. So, I've been told that I needed to drink wine, have Wine Chan come out and drink wine during volume 28. I don't want to know why. I don't want spoilers. No. I just was told in the Discord that would be a great volume for me to bring out Wine Chan, because I've never drank wine while watching this series. And to be honest, I have been on an antibiotic for the last month, so I've not drank any alcohol at all for the last month. So, you know what they say, if you've not had alcohol in a long time and then you have some, your body's like, whoa. So that'll be a fun time. So in a couple weeks, Romania will bring out Wine Chan for the first time in a month and a half, and I'm sure it'll be great. But we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to dive into volume 26 of Ace of the Diamond and get into the semifinals and see what happens to our boys. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. Look at me, Yuki. This game is freaking great. This game is so good. I love the semifinals so far. Oh my god. Like, Terajima. I love it. This semifinal is crazy, and now Ichidai Third scored, so somebody's gonna have to do something. Oh my god. So now, yeah, we're getting ready to be in the 5th inning, and all bets are off. But Sawamura is doing well. Sawamura is keeping a hold of himself very, very well. So I have a feeling we're going to see where this goes. But man, we talk about these chapters. When I was getting to chapter 235, when Amahisa ended it and was like, we win, I was like, wait, is this the end of the volume? And I had to look down and be like, okay, we got one more chapter. And I was like, if he had ended the volume there, I would have been like, no. But he doesn't. He gives us another chapter and ends us on another cliffhanger with we'll talk about Yakushi. Oh my god. But yeah, so God, I feel like this volume was Amahisa, Miyuki, and Sawamura being the most unlikely love triangle in sports anime history. And we'll talk about Mei Naramiya. Mei shows up for one panel, for like 2 panels. Mei shows up for 2 panels in this volume to make us remember that he's watching this game. We'll talk about that, Terajima. You coward. We're gonna talk about this. But yeah, so Miyuki, chapter 229, the last boss. Yeah. The last boss is Miyuki. We'll talk about that. But Amahisa, so I like that we talk about in this chapter that both Amahisa and Miyuki are being scouted by pro teams, which is important to note that Miyuki, it's not just the pitchers that are getting noticed by the scouts, it's Miyuki too, because he's a freaking amazing catcher. And he proves it in this volume, definitely. But man, Miyuki looks good on the cover of this. Terashima likes drawing him. Amahisa's like 3 up, 3 down. And Miyuki, but in that one pitch, there's little mounting pressures that are getting mounted against Amahisa, right? And so Miyuki, when he strikes out, he tells Zona something, and Amahisa's kind of thrown off by that. He's like, "What are you doing? What'd you tell him? What are you trying to? You giving some secrets away? Did you notice something?" Because I think if Amahisa is intimidated by anybody on Seidou's team, it's not that Sawamura intimidates Amahisa. Amahisa respects Sawamura and admires him and is on the same wavelength as Sawamura. But Amahisa is intimidated by Miyuki. He does know that Miyuki is a genius catcher, like he's a genius pitcher. And he's like, oh, you're the final boss. You're the one I have to beat. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. But so he's a little bit worried. It almost seems like maybe he's doubting himself just a little bit. And it's like, And then Mei shows up for like 2 panels just to make us remember that he's there watching the game, which the rest of this volume, all I could think about was Mei Naramiya is watching Sawamura pitch. What's his reaction to that? But we're not going to find out because Terajima's a coward and won't show us because I know why he's doing it. I still think Seidou's going to win somehow. Seidou's going to win this somehow. And I'm like, Terajima is waiting for Seidou to face Inashiro for us to get what Mei's thoughts about Sawamura are. Because we've not gotten them this whole series, and he's just going to wait until this upcoming match for them all to come out. But I'm like, Mei has been watching this whole game. So I'm like, Mei has seen the battery between Sawamura and Miyuki. I want to know his thoughts about it, and we're not getting it. But Mei just sitting up there looking so smug, and just be like, like looking down at Amahisa. It's such it's a tease. A damn tease. That's all it is. Mei is just a big tease in this. And Yakushi, we'll get to them. My heart. But, so Sawamura pitching. Sawamura's pitch, him chiding. I like the Sawamura. He's like, Sawamura getting onto Miyuki, being like, oh, you didn't swing and hit that ball. Miyuki's like, yeah, I know, right? So that was really funny. Kosei's angel face at Sawamura when he's like, come on. Like, it's the cutest thing in the world. He wants to see Sawamura's new pitch. That's what my notes were saying. He wants to see Sawamura's new pitch. He wants him to see the number 9. He wants to see what it's like so he can try to hit it. But I love that Miyuki, when he looks down at Miyuki and Miyuki's just glaring at him, and Kosei's like, oh, you're not going to show a lousy batter like me this new pitch, huh? And Miyuki's face at Amahisa, Miyuki was just like glaring. It's the most unlikely love triangle because Amahisa's over here trying to get all up on Sawamura, and Miyuki's like, stay away from a man, and Sawamura's like, who's fighting? What's happening? Like, Sawamura's so clueless about it all. But I love that he calls Miyuki the final boss. You're the last boss. And I feel like for Mei, it's kind of the same thing. Like if we're gonna face off against anybody, it's Miyuki's the biggest bad you're gonna face as far as catchers, is what Amahisa's saying. And I freaking love it. I love it. But it's like, yeah, the unlikely love triangle. And I love the Sawamura, and this is like, I shouldn't have never gotten online with him. Sawamura is regretting sharing all the picture secrets with him online. He's like, I never should have talked to this man. What have we started? It's wonderful. But so chapter 230, I love chapter 230. Show off your growth to the genius. I love it. It's just, I like the fact that Kosei, what I like about Kosei a lot in this series, Kosei's probably one of my favorite characters, honestly, in this series. He's become one of my favorites. I like Kosei a lot because he's not perfect. He's not infallible. He's not this like Adonis type figure like Mei. I love a diva. I love a peacock. And so Mei fits the bill. Mei's such a diva character. I love him. But Mei's kind of not boring, but it's almost like I'm waiting to get more on Mei when we get to the finals. But here's the thing. Mei Naramiya as a character was never interesting to me until he had the breakdown with Kunitomo. We were talking about this in the Discord yesterday, and we were talking about how once Mei showed his like human side and broke down and bawled in the dugout, that's when I liked his character. Because before then I'm like, oh, you're some cocky brat who thinks he's great, and you're just boring. Like he seemed bland to me because I was like, oh, well, you're just that antagonist that's just like this perfect pitcher and we got to defeat you somehow. But the moment that Kunitomo had that breakdown with him about what an ace really is, and Mei just like had this come to Jesus moment, for me, that's when I really liked this character, because I'm like, okay, we're seeing Mei being an actual person. And we're seeing him not be this infallible pitcher. And that's what I like about Amahisa. Amahisa's never been perfect. He's great. He's a genius. He's scary. But he's not infallible. He is just as human as Sawamura and any other pitcher. And I like that he has layers to him. And he's just normal, right? Even though his sense of humor is just off the wall, batshit crazy, he's still like just an infallible, like human pitcher. And so I like that he's not a star batter. I like that Kosei's like, I'm not a good batter. So he's kind of like Sawamura, but we'll talk about that comparison, right? We'll talk about the comparison in chapter 231. But chapter 230, he's not a star batter. He considers Miyuki the brains of the battery, which, it's true. I don't think that gives enough credit to Sawamura, though, because Sawamura is a pretty damn smart pitcher, and he's shown in these past few volumes that Sawamura thinks about a lot of things, and him and Miyuki, you can tell throughout this entire volume, the two of them work so well together because they're constantly like, I love that they phrase it as laying the foundation. Like throughout this entire volume, they're laying the foundation with each of these batters, figuring out what they need to do, figuring out their strategy, and they're both like on a telepathic wavelength about it. And it works out really well for each of them. So even though Miyuki is the brains of the battery, I guess, I'm kind of loath to say that because I think Sawamura and him are kind of on nearly equal levels. Miyuki is a little bit more of a strategist and he's got another year on Sawamura. That's what it is. He's a senpai by a year. He's had a year more experience. So we'll give him that. But God, I love that Amahisa just hates Miyuki. He's like, I hate that guy. He's taking my man. He's ruining my game. I hate him. But Sawamura, he did it. He reached the 140 kilometer per hour club. Woo! I love his little face where he's like, I did it. Like, I just love it's such Taurus energy. It's so there. I'm like, Sawamura is so proud of himself. And what I like about this chapter is Sawamura kind of gets to like soak it in and be like, I did it. I made 140 kilometers per hour. I'm so proud of myself. I broke my record. And Miyuki's like, hey now, don't get cocky. Don't get carried away. And what I like is that Sawamura doesn't get carried away. He doesn't get cocky. I'm like, thank you, Terajima, for not doing that bullshit. You're about to do some bullshit later, but I'm glad you didn't do it now because I'm glad Sawamura has grown so much. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I'm super proud of myself. I'm going to dust my shoulders off a little bit, pat myself on the back. But he knows it's a game and he knows how important this is. And so he has his little moment and then he doesn't let it make him. Sawamura is not a peacock. He is not a Mei Naramiya. No, Mei Naramiya would be like, he'd have his nose so high up in the air you could see to the other side of the world through it. But not Sawamura. He's a sunshine boy, but he is not a peacock. He's not a diva. He moves on, but he has this like little moment. Miyuki's like, and he's like, don't worry, I got this. It's fine. And he does. And I like that Hoshida, like when this is happening, so Chimaru thinks that he's gonna be fine. Chimaru thinks he's got this, and he ends up getting struck out. And I love that Hoshida is in the shadows, like the dark night, like just brooding. And then Kosei like takes his hat off and tips his hat to Sawamura. He's impressed. Kosei is impressed with Sawamura. And you know what? I won't be surprised if Mei in the finals is just like, Sawamura, whatever. Like, if he's like that, I could see that happening because Kosei is so obsessed with Sawamura and so, like, enamored with him. It would not surprise me if Terajima went the total opposite route with Mei and was just like, whatever, you're inferior. Like, that wouldn't surprise me. It'd be on character for Mei, and it'd be a nice contrast to Amahisa, so I could see him doing that. But I love that Kosei, being impressed with Sawamura, he's like, damn it. I don't want to break first. Now, Kosei and Sawamura are actually surprisingly similar. They're very similar pitchers, and they both kind of have the same mentality in a way towards being the ace. And Sawamura's like, I don't want to give in first. And Kosei's like, I don't want to either. So they're kind of on the same wavelength too. I'm like, after this game is over, they'll probably be great friends, much to Sawamura's dismay. So, you know. But Manaka, I like that the chapter ends with Manaka kind of being like stewing on things. Like, Manaka knows more than the other third years from Ichidai Sanko about Amahisa. So he's kind of like processing everything and reflecting on it as these chapters roll on too. But I like that, what does it say? I have Tom down there say, Tame says, what do I have on down here? He says that Kosei, he's all about how he's like, it's not, the third years. So the third years, I don't know what in the hell my notes say on this. I was like, what is that word? But the third years, they're kind of like, they get a little worried about Kosei. They're like, well, when it comes to the words patient and enduring, Kosei's not the first person that we think of. But Manaka has a little bit more faith in him than that, right? So that's chapters 229, 230. These chapters went by fast in this volume. This whole volume felt like it was a blur. This volume was just action-oriented. Like, every chapter was like a play in an inning. We're only to the 5th inning. We're barely out of the 4th inning. This is... You all are going to want me to drink wine on the volume where this match ends, isn't it? Isn't it? Damn it! Because if we're to the 5th inning by the end of this volume 27's next. We're probably going to get to to the 6th or 7th inning. And volume 28 is going to be when the semifinals end, isn't it? I don't want to know anymore. No spoilers. No spoilers. None. None whatsoever. I may have to read ahead. No spoilers. Do not spoil me. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, we're going to worry about that when we get to it, but that just hit me. I was like, we only are at the end of the 4th inning and 2 volumes into this match. If we get to the end of the 6th or 7th in the next volume, that means in volume 28 it's going to end. Damn it. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But anyway, back to chapter 231. My role. This chapter is such a callback to the My Role episode of Act 2, where Sawamura, it's one of everybody's favorite episodes from the anime, because it's where Sawamura is like, I know what my role is as the ace. He's like, I know my role as pitcher. He's like, I know it. And this is a direct callback to that. And I was like, oh my god, yes. So Sawamura, we have Masashi. Masashi has it rough this volume. He does. I really wanted, the one thing I lament that we didn't get in this volume, we see in the last chapter, after Masashi makes the fielding error, we see one shot of Yuki just being like, that's my brother, you know? I wanted to see more commentary on Tetsu about his brother. I wanted to see more of that, but we didn't get it in this volume, so that was kind of sad, disappointing, but maybe we'll get more of it after the game's over or later. But Masashi, so the reporter notes that he has hit 2 for 9, which are not great odds, but the 2 times he has hit have been home runs. So that kind of makes up for it. So it's like, if he hits the ball, y'all are screwed. He just is not as likely to hit it, right? And he gets struck out this time, and his helmet goes sideways. It's like, Masashi never change. So Ichidai Third. We have Masashi, what do we have in here? He's called, the third year from Ichidai Third, the third year calls Masashi a punk, which I like it. He's like, get out of here, you punk. The one Ichidai third year, he's just standing up. He's got a skull on his shirt. He's like, get out of here. And he's the rowdy one in the stands, right? But I like that they do say the third years, again, the reason why I think Kosei and Sawamura are kind of similar is the third years talk about how Kosei looks sharp in this game. They're like, man, Kosei looks on his game. He looks really well in this game. Things are going all right. And the banter that they say about Kosei, it reminded me a lot of the third years talking about Sawamura. Sawamura and Kosei are very similar pitchers. They really are. They have very different approaches. Kosei's the genius pitcher, and Sawamura's the rookie with all the growth. But they're very similar, which is kind of cool. And Takami, I like that they talk about how Kosei's looking sharp, and they say that one of Kosei's weaknesses has always been that he underestimates the bottom of the lineup. He doesn't, because, and it makes sense. Kosei's pretty smug and kind of like cocky, and so it makes sense he would underestimate the bottom of the lineup. So that's where he messes up. He underestimates them and they take advantage of him. And they talk about how, that's always been his weakness, and Takami, the catcher, has probably been onto his ass about it for the last how many months, right? And so we see Kataoka kind of in the middle of all this, giving the team the advice to go for any weak pitches that they can get. And I like that they established that they think Kosei is going to try to pitch all 9 innings. And they're like, we're not even halfway through this. So Kosei is probably going to wear himself out. And it's just a matter of pacing and endurance. That's what we got to do. And the third years have established that Kosei's endurance is not Kosei's strength, right? So I do like that Kanemaru gets a double, which is great. I love the little panel of Tojo and Haruichi being like, oh, he did it. Like, that was really great. But the third year start to doubt Kosei and think that he might be slipping. But Manaka's like, no. He's like, don't underestimate Kosei's resolve. Like, he's a third year. He's motivated. He's got this. And we get the little preview to something when we get to the end of the volume. I'll talk more about it. But Manaka knows Kosei better than the other third years. And there's stuff about him and Kosei's conversations we still haven't touched upon. And it's going to come out in the next couple volumes. You know it is, but it's like, you just know it, right? But so Sawamura going for his butt. I love it that Kosei's like, I'm not a good batter and stuff. But here's the thing. This is a big difference. Kosei almost seems like he's resigned himself to the fact that he knows he's a lousy batter. Kosei's like, I know I'm a bad batter. I know I'm not very good. So I'm just going to try my best. But Kosei knows he's not good. Sawamura, even though he's bunting, and even though people may make fun of him, he's like, I know my role. And I know what I got to do to help our team score. He's like, I know I'm not a good batter, but I'm not just going to make a joke out of it. He's like, I've got a job, a specific task I'm going to do. He's like, I have to connect, and my senpai will do the rest. And I love that. I love that Sawamura knows his role. And it's a nice callback. It's very good. I love it. And so then chapter 232 went by really quick. I did not have a lot of notes on it at all. Kuramochi was up. Chapter 232 was just Kuramochi getting out. That was literally the whole chapter. It was just him getting up. His song is Train Train by the Blue Hearts. I'm going to go look it up after this is over and listen to it. But chapter 232 is called His Form. Kuramochi versus Kosei and their rivalry. I like that in these games, you have characters that from opposite teams that develop rivalries, and not just like pitcher versus pitcher, but Kosei and Kuramochi have developed a rivalry over the course of this game. Like in the last 4 innings, they've developed this, like from Kuramochi getting out by the pickoff to him catching the ball from Kosei, from his team. Like these two, Kosei and Kuramochi, are like at each other's throats, and Kuramochi gets out this time. Barely out. He barely got out. He was so close. And he was pissed. I love that panel of Kuramochi mad, and there's just the swear words on all sides of him. It's great. It's so well done. And Rio was so impressed. Rio was like, damn. Rio's like, now that he stopped being a switch hitter, he's pretty good. And even Ochi is amused too. He's like, for somebody that didn't want to do that all this time, now you're seeing the benefit of it. It's like, that is the one thing. Ochi telling him to stop being a switch hitter and to focus on his left-handed batting, it was a good move. All right, Ochi, I'll give you that. It was a good call, right? So it was still 0-0 though, as we go into chapter 233. Good game flow. And this is where chapter 233, everything was going great. Kuramochi got out, but it was like, no, everything's fine. This volume's going great. There's no drama. I'm like, man, it's been a couple chapters and there's been no angst or drama or anxiety. Terajima, what are you doing? And then Terajima's like, what if we just stopped the game and went to Yakushi to have some angst? I'm like, why? No one asked for this. I'm curious to see where it's going. Like, why is Sanada here? Like, what is Sanada going to get out of this game? That's what I want to know. I'm curious to see what ends up happening and what Sanada is going to get out of this. That's what I'm curious about. That part fascinates me a bit. Because there's a reason, and it's like, okay, what's going on? What's up? So I'm curious to see what goes down with that. That part has me intrigued. But Yeah. So we go to Yakushi. The third year show up, and Todoroki's just sitting there like, hey guys. Akiba being the captain, most unsurprising, best decision Raizo Todoroki has ever made. Akiba is, of course, best captain material. Our catcher, Akiba, he's great. I like how they were like, how'd you convince Mishima to not be mad about it? And he's like, well, Raizo's like, I don't know, I made up some bullshit where I told Mishima that he was like the lead cannon of our team. I love that Mishima wanted to be a quad wielder. He wanted to be pitcher, catcher, cleanup, and captain. I was like, you can't do all that. That's so great. I'm like, Mishima, ambitious. But I love that Todoroki was like, no. He's like, Mishima, you are our irreplaceable cannon and pitcher. We need you. Because, yeah, now that Sanada's gone, I mean, they have Tomobe. They have him. But Mishima's going to be a pitcher. He's going to have to pitch a lot now that Sanada's gone. So, and Akiba is going to be the main catcher. So, I actually think the Mishima and Akiba battery would be really good. But, and Tomobe and Akiba will probably be really good. But I like that's how you're the irreplaceable mainstay pitcher and batter. It's like, yeah, good on you, Raizo. And so then the third years are like, where's Raichi? So Raichi's with an acquaintance. Who is an acquaintance? What? So I'm like, where's Raichi? Where is my banana boy? What are you doing? Because Raizo looked really upset. He looked like really soft and sad. He was like, yeah, Raichi's taking this really hard. And he blames. And the thing that got me was that the third year's faces, when he's like, Raichi blames himself for ending your summer. And the third years are all like, what? Like, that's what gets me, is that the third years, they don't blame Raichi at all. It wasn't even on their radar. They weren't even thinking it. They were just like, how could he think that? It's like, my heart, Terajima, what are you doing? So I don't want to know where Raichi is, but he's with an acquaintance somewhere to like make him feel better. Who that is and where it is, I hope we find out, but I don't know. I hope we find out who it is because I want to know. But the third years, they don't know where Sanada is, and Raizo's like, well, I wanted to show Sanada to a shit ton of teams. Raizo still wants to help Sanada find a team to go play while he's in college or professionally. So we find out that Sanada went to go watch the game. So that's where he is. But where Todoroki is, where Raichi is, with whoever the acquaintance is, I want to know, but I want to know who Todoroki has connections with. Who's his acquaintance connection? If he's hanging out with Kunitomo, I'm going to be like, what? Could you imagine Kunitomo and Raichi? Like, Kunitomo's just like cracks his neck and Raichi's like just sitting there eating a banana scared. What? I just want to know, but I don't want to know, so don't spoil me. We better find out. We better find out, damn it. But yeah, so thank you, Terajima, for that heartbreak. It's just like Terajima's like, here's a couple pages. Let me shatter your souls, and then we'll return back to our regularly scheduled program. Like, why? Why? So, and Todoroki hopes that Sanada has not given up on baseball. I don't think he has, but he looked really solemn in there. So I'm like, I don't want, because when we left off, Yakushi lost to Sanko, and clearly Sanada was like torn up about it and didn't shake Amahisa's hand. So I want to see what goes down and why Sanada's there to watch the rest of the game. I want to see that, right? But anyway, so Miyagawa, he gets up. He got onto first because of Zono's error. Zono, my dude. Everyone's praising Sawamura in the stands, which I love. I love that Yuki's on fire seeing Sawamura's really good pitch. And Chris just being pleased as punch. Chris being so pleased at Sawamura's control. And damn it, that has been the one thing that when Chris was mentoring Sawamura, it was the one thing Sawamura was struggling with was ball control. And Chris was like, you will never become the ace unless you get control. And it was like, we went through so much shit with all of that. And for Chris to be up in the stands watching Sawamura be at the top of his game is so damn satisfying and so good. Like all the panels of Chris just like with this like dewy face, like these dewy eyes. I'm like, it's wonderful. And I love it so much. I can't love it any more than I already do. But yeah, but Sawamura, and Miyuki working together. I love the idea that they're creating a foundation when they face these other batters, that they're like, let's lay down a foundation. Let's figure out how we're going to target them. Let's do it. Let's just battleship this. And Kosei knows what they're doing. That's the cool thing, is that Kosei figures it out. He's like watching him being like, yep, that's how you do it. Kosei knows. And the hilarious thing is that Kosei doesn't tell his teammates. Kosei's not like, hey, they're doing this one thing. I get what they're doing. You guys want to know what it is? No, Kosei doesn't say a damn thing. Nah. It's almost like this unspoken rule between him and Sawamura, that being like, I get you, you get me. We got it. It's like, I love it. I love that Kosei knows what they're doing. Like, he's caught on, right? And then Hoshida, the main cannon, at the end of chapter 233 comes up to bat, right as they have that error with Zono. And Terujima's like, time to pile on the anxiety again. I'm like, so 234, I love the cover of 234. It's so good. I love the cover of it. And I love that at the top of the fourth, we're 0-0. And I love the quote, the true value of an ace is questioned in a crisis. Like when your back's up against the wall and there's all this stress mounting, if you're the ace, how do you overcome it? And I am so freaking proud of our boy Sawamura for overcoming it. Like he handles this chapters 234 through 236 with aplomb. He's just, I could not be more proud for our Sunshine Boy. I'm so proud of him. He's doing so, I had my phone out. I'm like, you're doing so well, sweetie. Like, that's what I just want. I would be in the stands doing that if I was at this game. But Miyuki and Sawamura, they're taking their time getting through Hoshida, being like, we have got to take our time and map this out and be careful because Hoshida is that good. And we need to make sure we don't slip an inch. Right? And I love that Chris explains the whole position of the mitt and how in the strike zone, if you position the mitt a certain way and catch it a certain way, it can still be in the zone. And that's how they get Hoshida. That was great, that it can influence the zone with the ball. But I love they established, like, it takes a very advanced catcher to use that kind of technique, which is Miyuki's life. So of course he's great at it. And I love Amahisa's snub face. Amahisa's like, ugh. He's like, that only worked like 2 or 3 times in a game. Like, yes, it's great. It's wonderful. And Chris noting how the catchers are improving too. He's like, it's not just our pitchers that have gotten better. Miyuki's improved too. And you see his little hand like grip. Like he's just so excited, but you can tell he like wants to be out there, right? He wants to be out there. And you see Koshu on fire from the dugout. Like he's excited for Miyuki too. It's great. Like all the catchers know what's up. I wish we had gotten Takami's expression with it, but it's fine. And so I love Sawamura, what he says in this moment. He's like, everyone makes mistakes, but the ones who make up for those mistakes are us pitchers. I'm like, and he's like, that's my ideal ace that I want to be. The one that makes up for the mistakes. I'm like, oh, Sawamura, my heart. And Miyuki, when he throws that last pitch and Miyuki catches it, like Miyuki's teeth are gritted. He's like, oh, I got it. Like he has that face like, damn it, yeah. And Amahisa, his teeth are gritted like, damn it, he did it. And so it's like, oh, it's 234 ends so great. It ends so well. It's such a beautiful ending. That double spread is so gorgeous. And you forget that Terajima is about to make you suffer again. It's like Terajima makes you a little anxious in chapter 233. And then chapter 234, he gives you the highest of highs. And then chapter 235, he's like, now it's time to quote unquote step on your hopes and dreams, which is chapter 235, step on. I'm glad the volume doesn't end here with chapter 235, because otherwise, for a split second, I thought the volume ended with chapter 235, and I was like, oh, hell no. And it doesn't, thankfully. But chapter 235, we have Akana watching and getting all blushy-faced and having a crush on Sawamura's reliability as the ace, and, having the nostalgia of it back then when he was reliable on their own team as the ace. And then it cuts to Rei, and here's the thing. I don't think Rei has heart eyes for Sawamura like Wakana probably has in this chapter. But I love that Rei is just loving the presence Sawamura has. She's like, the whole stadium can sense your presence, Sawamura. Rei's like, I did my job. Y'all can give me all the stipends and bonuses you want. I'm just that good of a recruiter. Sorry. It's great. And then I love that everybody's just getting fired up by Sawamura, and Yuki notices that Chris is sitting there like with his hands clenched. Like Chris is aching to play and he wants to be a battery with Sawamura again. That's honestly, we were talking about this in the Discord. Don't get me wrong, I want Miyuki and Sawamura to play together on a pro team. That would be amazing. But I'll be honest, it would kind of be cool if for like a season, Sawamura goes and plays with Chris on a team. Like, what if Chris was like, Sawamura, come to America with me for like a season and play in America and be a pitcher over here and I'll be a catcher and we'll be a battery again. I'd be all for that. I'm going to get into Haikyuu spoilers for like a hot second, so I'm going to put a little note up here saying Haikyuu spoilers. But it would kind of be like, if we're going to compare Sawamura to Shoyo, it would be like, you want Sawamura and Kageyama to be on the same team, or you want Shoyo and Kageyama to be on the same team, which is funny because in Haikyuu, they're not. They're on rival teams. But Sawamura and Kageyama are rivals in a sense. So not like Miyuki and Sawamura, which are literally a battery and they want to work together, right? But what would be kind of cool is if in the epilogue that Terajima gives us, if he gives us one after Act 2, we had like a couple chapters where Sawamura went with like Chris over to America and they were a battery for a couple chapters and we got to see what that would be like. It would be like the Brazil fling that Shoyo went on and him and Oikawa went and played for like a hot second together. We would get that just with Chris and Sawamura, which is hilarious because Chris Senpai's voice actor is the same voice actor for Oikawa. So it would all make sense and be right with the world. So my only hope is that by the end of this series, we at least see, even if it's a practice game, I want to see Chris and Sawamura be a battery again. And you can just tell, end of Haikyuu spoilers, and you can just tell Chris, like you keep watching him and Chris wants to be out there playing alongside Sawamura. And I want it so badly. But maybe Terajima will give us some fan service with that. Maybe. We can only hope. But yeah. So Furuya, I like Furuya comments. Furuya's like, I might not get to go in and pitch today. He's like, I may not get to pitch today. And he's being dead serious. Furuya's like, Sawamura's on a really good game today. He's on a roll. I may not pitch today. And I'm like, I don't know. I think Sawamura and Amahisa are going to pitch the majority of their games. And if they get switched out, I think Sawamura is at least going to pitch till the 6th or 7th inning. And maybe Furuya will come in, but maybe Sawamura will stay in the whole game. I don't know. I feel like if Sawamura pitches this entire semifinal, then they're going to start with Furuya. Of course they're going to start with Furuya. If Sawamura pitches the whole semifinal here, and Seidou wins, then in Ishiro's match, they're going to start with Furuya, and then Sawamura is going to close it. Or if Nori gets pitched, Nori could close it. That would be fitting. That would be fitting. Oh my god. I know I'm jumping the gun. Seidou still has to be Seidou still has to be Ichidai Third, and we're not there yet. They're down by 1 run. They could lose this game, but I don't think they're going to. But it would be perfect if Furuya started the finals, Sawamura pitched for a big chunk of it, and just paralleling the last time they faced Inashiro, if Nori Senpai, who's suffered and is not going to play in this game probably, if he pitched the final round against Inashiro and they won it, that would be amazing. I would lose my shit. But we're not there yet. We've got to get through this game. So I'm counting my chickens far beyond before they will hatch. So I'm just going to push. I keep wanting to think of this game being over, but at the same time, I don't want it to be over because it's so good. Like, this semifinal is one of my favorite games so far in this series because it's just so dense and so well done. And it's so good. The back and forth is great. But anyway, Furuya's like, I may not pitch. And he's just like sitting on fire about it. And we cut over to Nori, who's sitting there in silence being like, and you know that Nori feels useless. He feels useless and like he can't do anything. And that's why I hope he gets to pitch in the final. I really do, if they make it to the final. But I felt for Nori in this volume because he doesn't think he has anything to contribute. And so Sasaki comes up to bat, and Sasaki's an interesting character. I like that Sasaki's like, I can't be conventional. He's like, it's just not going to work on this. And he acknowledges that Sawamura is a good pitcher. He's like, Sawamura is on his way to becoming unhittable. And I'm like, that's it. Everybody in the stands was praising Sawamura. This guy Sasaki praises him. It's great. But he figures out that He's like, if it means, he's like, I can't do anything conventional, so screw it. It's all or nothing. Like, he's like, all bets are off. And he hits that ball to Masashi. And Tahara Toshi-chan, the coach, reveals that they believe that the weak link of Seidou's defense is Masashi. And he says, if it was Aso Boy and the ball goes to him, don't run because he has a great arm. But if it's Yuki Boy, go for it. It's like, damn, that's so crazy. And then that shot of Aso, whenever Masashi throws a home and Aso's like, it's too damn high. It's like Aso and Nori are in the same boat. Nori is lamenting the fact that he can't pitch. He feels useless. And Aso's like, you're kidding, dude. And it's like, it's so frustrating. And Miyuki catches it, but it's too high and they score the run. And in the fourth inning, it's 1-0. And Amahisa raising that arm up being like, we win. I was like, I'm glad they didn't end the volume there because I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I was like, oh my God. I was like, how dare you? I was just, God, that was something. So yeah, thankfully though, we get chapter 236, which eases the tension a little bit, right? Terajima threw us a bone. Terajima's like, fine, I'll throw you a bone. We won't end with it seeming like utter despair. And instead we get chapter 236 called Move. And I actually like 236 a lot. We get the question, is it Sanada coming to watch the game? It is. He has a freaking soul patch, right? Like, okay, like why are you growing out this little soul patch, Sanada? Why? But Nori's fist being clenched. Nori feels like he needs to do something and nothing's working out. Everyone is encouraging Sawamura to keep cool. And Sawamura, to his credit, Sawamura is fine. He's like, I don't want to lose any more runs. He gets the third out thanks to Kaminato to Haru Trooper. I love that he calls like Haru Trooper. It's great. But they get the third out. And Miyuki's like, hey, we're only in the fourth inning. Don't get too worked up. And I love that Sawamura's like, I'm fine. And he is fine, which is great. Sawamura's like, I'm fine. And he's like, I know. He's like, it's just so frustrating. And I love that Sawamura is like, on an instinctual level, I was loath to want to give up any runs first. And I'm like, what a damn poet, Sawamura. But I love that Sawamura's like, he's like, me and Amahisa had a rivalry thing where neither of us wanted to give up the runs first. Amahisa said that back a few chapters ago. He's like, I don't want to be the one to break first. And then it's not really Sawamura or Amahisa that broke, though. It was their teammates. So I love that Sawamura, there's no bags under the eyes for this one, thank God. He's got this. Like, Sawamura's like, no, we're going to move through it. It's fine. We got this. It's okay. And Zono and we don't get Masashi's reaction, but Zono, he's pretty much like gotten over his error pretty quickly, right? And I love that while Sawamura is over here like being poetic, talking about how he was loath to give up any runs first, Kosei's over here being just as poetic, being like, that run was soaked in dirt. I was like, soaked in dirt? I was like, dirt isn't wet. How can it be soaked in it? But it's just like, all I can imagine is like mud and everything. I'm like, Kosei, you damn poet. And him being like, we are number one in our hatred of giving up. Like, he's like, Sanko is not going to be the team that falls first. Like, we're not going to concede unless we have to. But here's the thing. I love the reporter talks about how when you've been in a stalemate for so long, once a team scores, it's like the floodgates open and all bets are off. He's like, that's the scary thing about baseball. Once you've started scoring, then there's a whole new pressure, a whole new dynamic. Pieces start moving in weird places. He's like, it starts to get crazy from here on in. And Kosei, even though he said in the last chapter, he's like, oh, we win. Now the pressure's on him because he's like, now he has to defend that run. He's like, we've got to run. If we can just hold him, we'll win the game. But now there's that pressure. And he's like, damn it. And you can tell that it gets to him. And Kaminato is a lot like Sasaki from the last chapter. Haraichi is like, screw it. If that's what's going to... He's like, these guys aren't afraid to just throw caution to the wind. We've got to follow suit. And it's like the tension and everything is just building and mounting on top of itself. And Kosei throwing the balls, The third year getting mad, the third year being like, what are you doing, Kosei? And then we get that cut to Kosei lamenting to Manaka, where he's like, what is this feeling, Manaka? What is it? And I feel like we're going to go back to those panels and finish that conversation maybe in the next volume or in volume 28 or 29 or whatever. I feel like, and volume 28 may not be where this game ends. That's just my assumption. It could be even volume 29. But I feel like we're going to go back to those panels with Manaka and that conversation with Kosei and see what's up with that. Manaka knows, he has an impression of Kosei that's different than the other third years, and I feel like we've not seen the full picture of it, and we're going to tie back to that at some point. But yeah, he laments to Manaka, he has this feeling, and then Kaminado manages to get on base, and then Sanada shows up right as Shirasu is going up to plate. And that's the volume. So this match has been insane so far. I freaking love it. It's so good. It's so action-packed. It's just one right after another. When this all gets animated, we're gonna lose it, y'all. It's gonna be a riot. I'm so excited. But Shirasu's up. Kaminado's on base. They're in the same position that Kosei and Senko just was. They could tie it up in the fifth. Going into the fifth, it's like, what are we gonna do? I could see them tying it up, but I could also see them getting out, and Terajima would be like, no, not yet, right? And I'm curious what Sanada is going to say, what he's going to think while he's there. I'm curious where Raichi is, who he's with. I'm assuming he's safe. But this game is awesome. Maybe my favorite matchup so far, and we're barely even to the halfway point. It's just been wild. And I'm really, really excited to see where it goes to from here. So I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers, but I'm curious to know your thoughts about this game so far. And yeah, I'm super excited to see what happens, and I hope you all are too. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Ace of the Diamond Act 2. Bye.